I just wanted to make a video for myself where I revisit some of the settings that I've made in the Beaglebone Black, specifically for David Gesswein's MFM hard disk emulator. It's something that I've used on and off and when I do use it, I use it quite extensively for the last 5 years. Or maybe 4. I can't remember if he came out with this in 2014 or 2015, but I definitely, once I constructed one, I built a bunch more, and I like them very much. And then there's seasons where I don't use them because I'm not playing with the vintage computers so much, then I forget. And so I just wanted to make this video for myself to remind myself how I set up my settings. If it helps any of you out there in the vintage computer restoration YouTube community, I'm very glad for that. It's why I'm posting it publicly. I welcome any comments for improvements, but based on my time availability, I may or may not use those. But they're always welcome nonetheless. Alrighty. So I am, right now, I'm just going to be connecting over a serial port. Right now I have an FTDI tool plugged into the serial port of the Beaglebone Black. And my computer, good old Windows 7, has recognized that as COM21, and so I'm going to switch from the default. What is that? When I open a PuTTY session, the default is SSH. I'm going to change that to serial and manually change the COM port to 21. The way that I figure out what that is I open a device manager window. And what do I do there? I look for COM ports after I've plugged it in. And I have 2 FTDI devices. The one I'm going to work with is recognized on COM21. I only know that because I tested it before I started the recording session. Okay, enough about that. We are on COM21 and clicking open. I've already booted up the Beaglebone Black. I know that it's working, and so that when I hit enter right here, it should give me, let me maximize my screen here a little bit and do a little bit of optimizing for size based on my preference. When I hit enter, it should just prompt me for login. And it does. Beautiful. Excellent. All right. So, here it is. Minor setup for root and no password. Nothing specific. One of the first things I notice is that the last login, it thinks it's 2014. Well, right now it's August 20th of 2019. So, there's a date that needs to be updated. Now, I'm not connected to the internet with this thing. I don't have an Ethernet connection, which is connected to the network right now. I'm just connecting over a COM port, and so I don't know how to send it the current time. And so, you know, I could manually change that in Linux. And so, you know, why don't I just do that right now, just because I want a good record of that for myself for no other reason. So I'm going to go look it up because I don't have it memorized and come back and put that in for my own reference. And so there it is. I've looked that up. And so I'll make those changes right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is to set the date. And what I just did is I copied right there, and I just did a right click, and the right click pastes what I copied, what's in the clipboard, onto whatever the cursor is in PuTTY, or so I'm observing. And I'm just going to manually change the date to 2019. It's August 20th. Okay, and so there we go. And I've changed the date to today. Now I need to do the same thing with time. Might as well get the time right as long as I'm at it. And so, oh gosh, I thought there was a time one here as well, but set the hardware clock. Well, there you go. All right, I don't need to watch myself fumble around with this, so let me get the commands that I want to remember for myself queued up right now. All right, there it was. It just blew right past me. This, of course, is the time. And I believe this is 24-hour format. We're going to find out if it errors out by not telling me this. And, oh, I guess, did I miss it? Nope. Huh. All right, I'm still here. Okay. So the time is currently 2011. going to say 12 minutes after. And so there we go. So there it is. It's the current time, maybe not to the second, but close enough for my comfort. It's, probably 50 seconds ahead, but that's good enough for what I want to do. Now, let's move on to the really important stuff. Let's review where all of my stuff is on the Beaglebone Black. Now, this is Debian, the Debian version, and it is the Beaglebone Black from about 2015, I think, is when I bought these. And so one of the first things that I want to do is to look at what I've set up in these scripts for each of these, because I have, 8 of these things, and I've set up something different in the startup script in each one of them. And where is the startup script on these? Well, I have chosen to use the startup script option in rc.local. And so rc.local is located, I believe... Is that it? Did I see an rc.local there? Sure did. So if I use Nano as my editor, I can see this is what I have in my rc.local. Now, I had originally set up this to put itself in read mode, and then after that put itself in emulator mode, but those are commented out. But with Nano, I'm just learning to use it myself, but it seems to be the nicest of all Linux editors. If I scroll down, there's more to it, right? This is the thing that doesn't exit until one of these things actually gets done. And so I suppose if I was going to comment out one of these things, this should have been commented out as well. So I'm just going to do that right now. There. All right. And so now I'm going to hit Control and X. That upper. I tried to hit the upper caret, whatever that thing is called, the insert character, which is above the 6 on the keyboard, and it didn't like that. I guess that really means Control. Yeah, that means Control. All right. So hitting Y for yes, and name to the right of the file to yes, rc.local, and so there we go. And if I were to just look at the file itself outside of any editor, just to make sure I didn't make any mistakes within the editor, that looks pretty good for me. But anyway, etc. I've heard people call it etc. I've heard most Linux users call it etc. etc/rc.local is the file to edit, and these are usually where I put my scripts, where I might, let's say, start start the MFM emulator by calling yet another script that starts an MFM emulator. All right, let's close that and let's look at where most of these things are located. So let's go to, we're in the root directory, not to be confused with the actual root directory. That's root. We're in the directory actually called root. So there's some ambiguity there, right? The directory that is actually named ROOT, not to be confused with the actual root, which is as far down as you can go. All right, let's have a look at what's on this one. All right, I have plenty of emulator images on this one, and I wrote some scripts last night. And I can see that already I had forgotten the time because I had set this, to be the 20th of August late last night, or I guess the case is early this morning. And so it could start, I just made some changes here. And so I just wanted to review what these things look like. So let's just edit the UNIX PC here, or at least look at it. This is a shell script that I wrote, and this actually does start one of these emulators. Real simple, okay? And so the first thing that it does, now this is something that I believe that I... This is something that I believe that I learned from David Gesswein's tips and tricks here on pdp8online/MFM. I'm not exactly sure where this is right now, but this is where I got all this information from when I built this board. And so those are, that and just some of my own explorations is how I figured this out. Again, I have a feeling it's probably not optimum, but it does work. So basically, here it is. I guess this is how all shell scripts start out. And so we basically start the emulator. This is the command for starting the emulator. We go to the root./emu, and then we run his script, which is setup_emu. And then there's this thing, I don't know how I figured this out some years ago, but basically this is the thing that says, until this is done running, just keep looping and wait for it, right? Sleep 1 second or 1 nanosecond, whatever it is. And so something in here, I don't really remember what, but something in here basically says, hey, is that current process I just called done yet? Now, again, I really don't remember what that is, but the point of this video is not to explain it, it's to document it for myself so that I remember, and maybe we can do later research to figure out what that is, to remind myself, well, how it is that I came up with this particular loop in the script to get it to wait until the emulator is done setting up. Well, anyway, let's assume that works. I believe it does because I've used it for a couple of years now, on and off. And then after all this is done, then basically we run the MFM_EMU with the parameters. Now, I'm just doing a simple UNIX PC in this case, and so it's a single drive that I'm emulating. And I'm emulating it from a file. So I simply do MFM_EMU, or, you know, I specify the full path just to make sure that it's working right. So I, in theory, can run this, you know, this shell script from any path. And drive 1, and then specify the file. Again, I'm specifying the full root, and this is the file that I'll be running. And so there you go. Now, there's a couple of other things I've done here which are really very interesting, and I'm going to demonstrate those now. These are the things I want to document for myself. So right now, I'm going to run this. I'm going to run this right here. sh space UNIX PC. I've heard people say that I can do a // but, you know, I guess I didn't set up the rights correctly. I think I have to do a change ownership and make it an executable and all of that. Didn't do it. So this is the simple workaround right here. Now this is interesting. We're getting some errors there that on that startup. But you know, this is plugged into the UNIX PC, and now the UNIX PC said, hey, I have a hard drive. And actually, as I look over, I can see that it is now booting. And so that's what we have going on here. Yep, it's definitely now booting. So I'm going to not end the hard drive. Okay, this is the status that we're getting here from the emulator. But I'm going to end the session. Right, I'm just going to close the COM port session, the serial connection, and I'm going to reopen this serial connection. And I'm going to show you a trick, or at least something that I did to reacquire that stream of information. So we're going back to COM port 21. Oh, look, it just picks up right where it left off. I will say this. When how do I want to explain this? Ooh, hard disk timeout. I did something. I'm looking over at the UNIX PC, and I've got a panic. Hard disk timeout. Please record panic message. Press hardware to reset or reboot. So something I did, I think maybe on login, when I logged in a second time, interrupted this, which is really too bad. So I'm going to end this. Wow. That was fun. It's a good thing it's an emulated image here, and you know, if I corrupted it, I'll just make a new copy from my original source. So I always do that. I always keep the original source so that if I mess up one of my versions, I just go back to the original source and I start all over again. Anyway, what is it that I wanted to show? I wanted to show how I acquired that after, if it started before I did a login. For example, if I set that, let's do that right now. Okay, I kind of like to do that. COM21. If here I am. So I want to edit rc.local. basically what I'm going to do here is that's not what I meant to do. I'm going to try this. I'm just going to try running that shell within a shell. I don't know if that's allowed or not. I can't remember. But I'm going to try it and see if it actually works. So let me do that now. Control X and save. Yes, thank you. Yes, keep the same file name. Make sure I did it right. Yep, that looks right. Now, I might have a problem running a shell script in a shell script, but let's check it out. Let's see. I mean, if I were to yeah, it runs, no problem. Okay. So I'm going to reboot this thing, if I can remember how, and see if it starts the Unix PC hard drive right now. So let me pause while I do that. Okay, so what I did was I hit the hardware reset button, and it evidently worked because the Unix PC is now booting up right now. And so, there we go. All right, so the Unix PC, the Beaglebone Black is already running the MFM emulator. So if I log in, right now it's running it. So the question is, if it runs on startup and then I log in after it starts, how do I acquire the status of the MFM emulator? Well, that is done by a script that I wrote after some research called show MFM. So let's look at that script first. Is that here? I wonder if I put it here. Yep. So this is it right here. It's a very simple script. PS-C MFM underscore EMU OPID REPTYR. And so I did some research to figure out that the magic thing where I really wanted to capture a session of some kind or a TTY output that wasn't actually in the console that I was currently in is to do that. And so right now I'm going to run this thing. Let's go here. And I think this one I set up properly so I could just do show MFM. And here it is. So basically, right there, now it basically acquired the current status of this thing so that I can, watch it or end it. So there it is. Now, I'm not sure what these things were up here. Timed out, waiting for child, allocated search page, open the new TTY and new child 8. Target is not a session leader. I think that stuff, starting with 875, I think all of that is the REPTYR attempting to get control of this session. And once it gets control of this session, we see that then right up there. So there we go. Oh, we've got a panic hard disk timeout again. I wonder if that's, something I'm doing here in this by interacting with this console where I'm slowing it down. That could very well be the case. I'm going to try this again because it seems to only happen when I'm interacting with it. So let me try that right now. I'm going to hit the reset button on the Unix PC and see if it boots up properly. I won't force you to watch the whole thing. Okay. So here it is, rebooting the UNIX PC, and there it is. That's a fresh reboot. It's setting the hard drive, it's searching the floppy disk, and now it's searching the hard disk, and it should be finding what it needs, and it certainly looks like it is. Yep, it's working. So I'm going to pause this and see if it boots up entirely on its own without me interacting with it. Okay, well, as it turns out something else is wrong, because without me touching it, I did get a panic hard disk timeout at about the same time on the Unix PC. But this is, we're going to turn this into a good thing, because what that tells me is something happened and this, this image became corrupt, right? I did something once and it wrote something to this hard drive where now it can't boot without having the same problem. So I believe there's something wrong with this image file. Well, that's fine, because I just started using this image file and never made any intentional changes yesterday, other than whatever it is I accidentally messed up here. So I'm simply going to refresh it. And so this is a perfect demonstration of how to copy over a new one. Now, in the past, I've used SCP because I've had an Ethernet connection. Right now, I don't. Instead, I'm going to be using the micro SD card slot that the Beaglebone Black has, and just kind of shuttle the card from one device to another, from my computer to that, and we'll just do a copy. But I just wanted to go through how we mounted that, because that was a point of confusion some years ago where we couldn't figure it out. Even though once I learned how, it turned out to be quite simple, but you had to know what you know. So the command that I'm looking at right now is the one. It's lsblk, and this is the one that says, "Hey, show me all of the devices." Right? I can't remember exactly what it's called, but basically that's it. Now, I do know that this is a 7 gigabyte. It's an 8 gigabyte card. And the entire storage on the local device, it's not a disk, of course. It's resident storage, is only about 3.5 gigabytes. So this, of course, is the default disk in the Beaglebone Black. So we don't want to mess with that. Instead, it's very easy to see that the SD card that I put in is this one, because it's 7.4 gigabytes formatted. And I believe I formatted this it does remember the things that I did last night. All the commands that I did last night. It remembers them, even though it can't remember the time right, but it remembers all the commands. I find that very strange. Okay. Anyway, so here's what I'm going to do. What I wanted to show is how we formatted the SD card, because I wanted to show the format in case I lose this. That way I can remind myself how to reformat one later, and at least I know how I want to format it so it works well. So let me. There it is, lsblk -F for file system. Okay, I think I got that in the man pages there. Yep, there it is. -F is the option for file system. Output info about a file system. It's equivalent to these particular options. That's good. I like that. But what I really wanted to see is... Oh, gosh. It doesn't show the size by default. So let me find something that's a little bit nicer. Is it -S for size? Nope, it's -B for bytes. Okay, so -F -B. Let's try that. Interesting. Won't do both. All right. Well, Obviously, I could figure it out by running it twice, one with or one without the minus B, or the minus F, I should say. Okay, so BLK 0P1 is what I'm looking for. BLK 0P1 is formatted VFAT. Now, I understand that VFAT is not an option for larger SD cards like 64 gigabytes, which is why I chose a smaller one that I have as an 8 gigabyte card. And it's certainly more than enough space to copy these kinds of files back and forth, but it's not so big that I have to format it, something special, and it takes hours to format, and then the Beaglebone doesn't recognize it, so on and so forth. So I think I'm just going to stick with 8 gigabyte micro SD cards or similar size and use the VFAT format. All right, well, I'm not going to go into how to format that. That should be easy enough for me to look up if I wanted to, but at least this is me documenting what's working for me, which is the point of this video. The VFAT format is working for me on this. Yep, very good. Okay, so now that I've done that, let's do a mount. And it is M. Let me actually do the copy here, right? I'll just use this. Little feature, and I'm going to right click and see how it just popped it right down there. And I'm going to mount that to an empty directory called media, which I believe is designed exactly for this. And so there it is. Okay. And so this should be what's on that card, and absolutely it is. This is exactly what's on that card. So this is what's interesting is this is the one that I was using, I believe, right? AT&T UNIX PC, or was it a different one? Let's find out. Yep, that's the one. So this is the one that's corrupt right here. And so I'm going to basically rename this. Now, with PuTTY, that's kind of annoying because if I get longer than one line, it wraps, but it doesn't go to the next line. The default setting, I don't know what I need to do about that, and it's extremely annoying. So let me check something here. All right, well, I'm really having trouble with this. Let's just try the MV command instead of rename. And I'll use tab completion. Good. All right, so I shortened that so I don't have to deal with the wrap. Jeez. Ay, ay, ay. So I've renamed it to x.e. Let's do that. I like that. And so now I'm going to copy that I'm going to copy it over to my SD card. So I'm copying that right now. And then I'm going to remove it. And then I'm going to copy the fresh one back. So this way, I don't know what I did with this, but I'm saving it for future analysis, which is something that I like to do, when I make a mistake like that, because it's really so easy to keep these files. They're not that big, right? They're not even a gigabyte in size. Or, if they are a gigabyte in size, they're 1 gigabyte in size. No, they're not. They're not even. Not even. All right. Are you done copying? Yes, you're done copying. Forget where I am. Let's make sure it's there. Yep, there it is right there. And this is the one that I want to copy instead. This one right here. All right. So it's interesting when I hit tab completion, it shows me that, which is a little bit confusing. So I'm just going to do the right click because I had selected the correct one. And so now I'm going to move that over to root and see if that works. See how it wrapped there? Very, very annoying, but evidently it still took the characters. And so now it's copying over to the root directory. The directory named root, I hope. All right, let's see. Alrighty. There it is. So in this time, I'm going to remove this, the corrupt one, just to save the space. So let me select that since tab is going to be confused. Okay. Yep, there we go. All right, that's it. That's what I wanted to see. Okay, and so now I should be able to basically restart this or run the UNIX PC again, and we shouldn't have this problem. All right, so it started the hard drive. It tried to start the emulator, build the emulator again, but the device resource is busy. This is what I always see when it's already started. Okay, meaning that I did it before. It's objecting to me doing it again, but it doesn't hurt for me to do it again because it starts the hard drive up no problem. So at this point, I should be able to hit the hardware reset button on the UNIX PC, and it should boot up no problem. So I'm going to do that right now. It's kind of cool. In essence, I've just swapped out the hard drive. Alrighty, it should be hitting the hard drive here shortly. There's the bootloader on the screen that you can't see, but I can. And it's hitting the hard drive, and there it is. All right, so I'm going to pause while I watch this boot up, and hopefully it'll do so successfully. And it just got to the login screen. Excellent. Just got to the login screen, which means that my swapping out of the hard drive image, the emulator image, was successful. So I did have, corrupt one of those images by doing something there, but it was just so easy to fix that it's just a non-event. So there you go. At this point, I probably could shut off the hard drive and it wouldn't know until I told it to do something, in which case I'd have some other kind of error. Well, that'd be fun. Wonder if I could disconnect it and reconnect it and it'll never know. Probably. It'll just pick up right where it left off. Good question, but it's the UNIX PC. Anyway, this video was just to review all of these particular elements that I had in the Beaglebone Black so that I could find them and find them more easily. And I think I have successfully done that here. And so all is well. And hopefully this was not too painful to watch. And as always, thank you for participating. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped you. Take care.